Made it here to Junction City, Oregon. We're gonna get these two offloaded, the ones that you saw getting loaded in the last video. And as soon as I get that done, we got an hour and 4-minute deadhead to pick up our next load. And I doubt we'll get that one delivered tomorrow. That'll probably be a Wednesday delivery. So with that, I'm gonna get to getting these off, and I'll see you guys later. So here I am picking up the next load. And it dawned on me that this is either my third or fourth time at this yard since I got into flatbed. And every single load I have pulled out of here has been on this fence line with that shipping container right in front of my truck. Every time. Every one. And clearly there's 2, 3, 5, 7 other spots. Why do I get so lucky? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's a little tight walking up and down there to move tools around and whatnot. And a little bit tricky to get in, but I'm getting good at it. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get this second one loaded up so I can get these strapped down, get all my pictures, get everything submitted and turned in, and get on down the road, because I got a long way to go. All right, so got in here yesterday, and Vance, again, being a great friend, is helping out with this wiring issue on the truck. You guys know I've been chasing this wiring issue for a long time. I haven't really talked about what it is, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But in the meantime, there was someone else who leased this truck, and there was an incident with the truck, and then from there everything kind of went to shit. And we'll kind of talk about that real briefly right here. So this is the issue that I've been chasing for the last few months. I'm having light issues that I'll talk about later on in the video. But as you see what was done to this truck, the way the harness was cut and spliced and things were just randomly thrown together, almost like there wasn't a lot of thought put into it. It was just someone who knew how electricity works, obviously, but didn't think the entire process all the way through, or they were in a hurry, or they just kind of figured it out as they went and didn't have a full plan before they started. And as we continue through this, you'll see the difference between this and the finished product. And you'll also see, or actually I guess I should point out, that I kept every single component they had. The only thing I removed was 2 LED lights that were in a loop in a harness together. I just cut them out because they didn't serve a purpose. They were just taking up space for no reason. And the way the wires ran, you're just asking for more problems to come, even with us going through and replacing everything like we did, which you'll see a little bit later. At the end of the day, the point is to just do it right the first time and save yourself a bunch of headache. But you'll see that a little bit later. Since then, we have found 3, 4 major problems in the wiring, something like that, 3 or 4. We're addressing all of those, and we're redoing all of the wiring. Everything is back to a factory harness, and nothing outside of factory is tied into the factory harness, so it's all back to stock. And then we are doing all of the aftermarket auxiliary lights front to back. They are getting wired in separately on the upfitter switches, and I'll kind of talk you guys through all of that as well. But we got a lot of work to do in a short time to do it, so I'm going to get back in here and get back in. All right, so what do we got, about 13 hours into this, roughly, and we have fixed the catastrophe that you guys saw at the beginning. We have redone every bit of wiring, from the fog lights on the front bumper to the license plate light, the tail lights, and the chicken lights in the back. Everything's done up all nice, neat, pretty in there. And we'll go over that in just a bit. Give us a minute to clean up the mess. We're going to clean the truck off because we have the bed blown apart. Might as well clean it underneath. And I'll get back with you guys in just a bit. So what we've got here is, on the right side, all of the power coming in off of the upfitter switches, going through this bus bar, and then on the left side, it's jumping out into all of the individual components, which you'll see right here. We have the top one and number 6 that are going to be filled in later. But for right now, we've got the strobe lights and the rear spotlights on a switch. The front fog lights are on their own individual switch. And on top of that, we've got the rear chicken lights, the front chicken lights, and the halos front and rear that are all tied in together, and you can see where it loops around and around down on the right side on the bottom there. And that allows us to split that up so we're not stacking several into one area, but we're still providing the power to power all those LEDs that we need. Now, this is the other side of that panel that has the Sharpie written on it. So as you can see, all of the wires that we put in there are sealed up, and it's a weather-tight box. I'm going to go through and clean up a little bit more and do a better job of sealing. As you can see in the top left corner there is a little bit of a gap in the box, and they all have that when the C channel was punched through. So I'm still going to go through and clean this truck up a little bit more, make it a little bit better. But overall, it is night and day beyond where it was when I picked it up in October. So, got it all put back together. You guys saw the...
Not that one. That one's got a whole rock in it. On the bottom side.
We're trying to figure out which hole we had the auxiliary tank bolted into. But you saw the bird's nest that was here. Everything's now sheathed. Everything's tucked in nice. Everything's ran along the frame, zip tied, secured, not moving around. Every single connection is these environmental connections, keep the water and road grime and stuff out, and we used very few of them. We tried to do everything in one piece. There's a couple random ones here and there, but almost all of it is one solid wire all the way through. You guys already saw inside the box. I put all my equipment back in there so you can't really see the panel, but we spent about 13 hours on this. Probably be 14 by the time we get that all done. And this was already blown apart once. It was in this state when they did what they did. So if we hadn't had to take that apart and put it all back together, now we're down to like 11 hours, right? And we spent probably 3 hours, 4 hours chasing down the problem that was causing the issue that I'll cover in just a second. So now you're down to 7 hours. And then we spent probably another 2 hours taking everything that was wrong out. So now we're at 5 hours. And I'll guarantee you they spent at least 5 hours doing the work that they did. So at the end of the day, do it right the first time. We maybe spent an extra hour over what it cost them to do this originally. Now you pair that with the fact that I have been chasing these light issues on this truck since I got it in October. I've got probably 3-4 full days trying to figure out what it is, and we had narrowed it down to something in this back piece. And that's why we were able to find it as quick as we did. Now the issue I was having is all of these chicken lights, front and rear, would just randomly turn off whenever they wanted. We'll go up here to the front, and the roof lights would turn off randomly whenever they wanted. Now, on top of losing the chicken lights and losing the roof lights, I also lost the fog lights, which now work. And I can turn the fog lights and the rear spotlights back off. And I lost these halos. And I lost those halos. Now, like I said, we found 3 or 4 issues where they had taken the factory harness and split it and looped it around itself and tied it back into the harness. And the way that they tied it in was to one of the 7-pin wires for the rear bumper mount. And that one always has power. That's a Ford thing. It sends just, what did we say, 2.8 volts? It sends 2.8 volts back into the trailer, and it's just doing a light check on the trailer. I don't know why Fords do that. It's something Ford does, you know, on the newer models. So, as that's doing that, they were always pumping a couple volts into all these chicken lights, and they were pumping a couple volts into all the halos and everything else. And what that ended up doing was it actually melted the harness, which you'll see right here. And that melting harness was what was causing all of my issues. So we went back through, as I said earlier, everything is now back. The factory harness is the factory harness. Everything that's aftermarket, all these spotlights and halos and strobe lights and everything, that is all ran in the upfitter switches, and that's what you saw in that junction box. Everything is isolated. Aftermarket's aftermarket, factory's factory. So I guess at the end of the day, if you're going to do something, do it right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call the dispatcher, and I'm going to get myself booked onto something. So that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate y'all coming along. Not really a whole lot of RV transport stuff, but maybe this is some helpful information. So with that, as always, those of you out on the roads, I wish you fair winds and following seas. Take care and have a great day.